Hello and welcome to another recording of e-DIRAP interviews. Today we'll be looking at the changes and advancement in the use of information and communication technologies for development in Mongolia. Joining us today is Lkhagvasuren Ariunaa, Chief Executive Officer of Intec company in Mongolia. Ariunaa has contributed to 3 print editions of the Digital Review of Asia Pacific, also known as DIRAP. And as DIRAP moves to an open online platform called e-DIRAP, Ariunaa is the key resource person on ICT development in Mongolia. Welcome, Ariunaa. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, thank you for having me. Welcome. Very good to be on this project.
Today we'll be highlighting some key changes and new developments in Mongolia, specifically related to the policy, legal, and regulatory environment, the rolling out of EGovernment Initiatives, and its ICT infrastructure. But firstly, Ariunaa, could you tell us a little about your background and about your company?
Sure. I am founder and CEO of Intec, which is a information technology consulting services company. Our company has been established back in 2004, operational since 2005. Prior to that, I was working at the Mongolian Foundation for Open Society, Foundation. And before that, I was working with the project of UNDP, United Nations Development Program, and the government cabinet secretariat on public management information system. And which preceded with my work of starting my career as a software developer, then the designer, and then now currently running my own consulting company. The company has 3 major areas of operations. It's research and development, studies, monitoring and evaluation of different project programs. Second area is consulting services, and third area is on training, capacity building, human resources. Within the consulting services, we have been engaged by the Mongolian Information Technology Post and Telecommunications Authority for last 3 years to develop so-called white paper of ICT development of Mongolia in 2010, 11, and 2008. I think the very first one was it. Besides the developing white paper, we have been working on different projects which are implemented by government of Mongolia or by international and donor organizations. Just to name you the very recent projects, we have been involved in the Asian Development Bank project on public transport information communication technology, intelligent transport system for better urban transport. We have been providing consulting services of designing, of changing, Mongolian ID card into the electronic ID card. We have been involved in the very first e-voting system, which has been carried out last year with the parliament election and the local election, and that project is continued this year with the upcoming election to the presidency. Regarding the research and studies, I have been, honored to be part of the Digital Review of Asia Pacific, DIRAP, and being part of that, we have to know what's going on in Mongolia in all aspects of communication technologies, as well as be able to, look up into the international arenas of how the information technologies are developed in developing, least developed, landlocked countries and others. For the past 5 years, I have been working personally with the United Nations Asia Pacific training center on ICT, where we were conducting training for civil servants on so-called Academy of ICT Essentials for Government Leaders. The training, it's not about computers, software, technology, applications or any other methods. It's rather to enhance the knowledge of the civil servants with a policy level education. For example, a lot of countries currently are talking about Millennium Development Goals. So that modules were about how to link up ICT with the Millennium Development Goals. What needs to be done to reduce poverty in the country, to reduce the maternal and child,
mortality.
Mortality, sorry, thank you. Thank you. What about the forestry? Countries like Mongolia have very few forests. So what the ICT can do, how can I enhance the knowledge of the decision makers with the use of ICT to make a proper decision on better management of the forestry. The more recent tendencies are about the digital divide, about the social media, disaster management. This kind of areas has been, covered by the academy. So I have been conducting training to civil servants in Mongolia, but also in some countries of Central Asia, like Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, because I'm fluent in Russian and the topic of sectors of this. So these are just a brief of three of the major areas of operation which we do.
Thanks for the introduction. Before we look at some of the initiatives that you and your company have been involved in, I'd like to first take a look at the overall ICT strategy in Mongolia. In the latest National Development Strategy, Mongolia has given great priority to boosting the ICT sector and using ICTs to deliver public services to citizens. Can you highlight some of the key strategies and tell us what has been the key triggers or key motivations for focusing on these strategies?
Most importantly, the previous and current government and decision makers have emphasized on using benefits and advantages of information communications technology for improving access of citizens to public services, for government organizations to be able to provide quality services to citizens. And that's what the leadership of the government organizations has been, emphasizing importantly on this one. I would think for the last 5, 6, 7 years, Mongolia has invested a lot from state funds and donor international organization funds to build the national backbone infrastructure. So as we say, we have now vein, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it, vein, and now the challenge, like human vein, through which the blood flows, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and now we have a challenge of that proper blood, content has flown through that, through that infrastructure.
Yes.
Which lines again with the necessity of having adequate policies, human resources, etc. And so that's very important component which requires for Mongolian organizations, for government to move ahead.
Mongolia has also taken big strides in developing a favorable legal and regulatory environment for ICT development. I believe particularly in the promotion of public and private partnerships. Could you share with us some of the initiatives that are taking place?
Back in 2000, if I'm not mistaken, 8, the standing committee, ad hoc standing committee has been established and chaired by the member of the parliament, which involve representative of government, civil service, civil society organizations, private sector, international donor organizations. The main purpose of that committee was to prepare necessary legal and regulatory framework for developing public-private partnerships in Mongolia. So, I have been involved in the working group of that committee, and where we have shared our own experience of, enabling PPP in e-government, projects which we have been involved back in like 2005, 6-ish, 2-3 years ago. So before this initiative, the draft law on PPP has been developed and submitted to the government and parliament, which has been approved as the law on consensus in 2010, if I'm not mistaken. And since then, there are a lot of projects, a lot of initiatives which the government is implementing. They are trying to apply involve private sector as much as possible, using different modules of public-private partnership, whether it's management contract or investment options or cost sharing of costs for development project, etc. So 2 years ago, the government of Ulaanbaatar city, municipality government of Ulaanbaatar city, even developed a so-called handbook of projects to be implemented through PPP, public-private partnership. So that's enabling environment which allows to private sector be engaged in the public services, as well as be able to address the services which public sector, to deliver services which public sector has some limitation in funding, resources, or others,
Another initiative that I'm keen to hear about is Mongolia's e-voting system. Last year, e-voting was introduced for the first time in Mongolia. Can you tell us about the e-voting system, what it is, because it means different things in different countries, and how well it worked or not worked?
And every year when the election happening, not only in Mongolia but also in other countries, I'm sure, there is a lot of concerns about the counting of the votes, because that's how the decisions are made on who is elected to the government, parliament or presidentially. So last year, the government of Mongolia, the year before, decided to introduce e-voting system. So the main concept of that was to the General Election Commission of Mongolia has, selected the bidder to implement that project, and over 3,000 voting machines, automatic voting machines, has been introduced to Mongolia on every polling station, and the votes were automatically the results were automatically transferred to the server and processed in central locations. I have been working on them from Mongolian side as a project manager on that one, and we have been conducting a lot of training, taking the equipment, testing, processing, not processing of the data, but enabling the environment for conducting those, for operation of those voting machines. Because in Mongolia, even though the infrastructure has improved much in the last 10 years, still there are locations, especially the polling stations, where there is no electricity. So the polling stations has to have, those voting machines has to have a connection to the electricity. Or we would supply, the project would supply with batteries which would last for more than 8 hours. So we have conducted the so-called pre-test of the voting election process a week before, and went successfully and implemented the project. And the results of votings were ready almost like the next days, because when compared to the previous year's results, they were, week later or 10 days later, because they were collecting all votes and compiling them together. There are still, of course, challenges left, because last year's parliament election has been historically different, because we used, first of all, e-voting system, and secondly, the opposition party, which is the Democratic Party, has been elected as one of the major parties in the parliament, which was like turn of the politics in Mongolia. And previously ruling party, Mongolian People's Party, is now in opposition. So it is quite, a big change in where we are. A lot of discussions are still going on, still now, because we will have election in 20 days, less than 20 days, for the parliament, for presidency. And in the presidential election, it has been decided to still use the voting system. But the opposition, which is currently People's Party, are also saying they're not trusting these resources and things like that. So the machines, So it's still challenges which we have to, move on, bear with that and learn. But we are proud to be the country which has introduced the very first time this kind of system in this region. As far as I know, the only other country which has conducted the voting was in Philippines, and we were the second, almost like in the very first in Northeast Asian countries. So we are very proud of that.
Right. And how has this e-voting initiative and the process and the changes that have taken place transform the legal and regulatory environment in Mongolia?
With the e-voting, one of the major, requirements of verification of data sent from the voting machines to the server was that there will be digital certificates used for that. Mongolia has not had many major changes in legal and regulatory environment for last, almost like 7-8 years in terms of the policy. And we try to push for general IT, ICT law, which includes law on e-government, digital signature, and e-commerce, etc. But we were not in success. But because of that election process, the very first thing which needed to be changed was to introduce so-called, digital signature law. And that has been improved.
Great. Okay. So I'd like to now move on to some of the e-government initiatives. You and your company has been heavily involved with helping the government of Mongolia develop e-government information systems, and you mentioned the e-ID card and the intelligent public transport system. Can you share with us some of your experience in developing these systems?
We used to have a paper kind of ID card, which contained, of course, it had some very security features, but it was a paper. There was no barcode or chip or any other facilities of which the current e-ID card could offer. So the government, General Authority for State Registration has, the government has, wanted to introduce e-ID card, electronic ID card. So we have been involved on this one. The main purpose of that is that the e-ID cards will be used as a basis for getting any services you want. As of today, and if I want to go to, say, I need to apply for the job with the government, I need to get a certification from the police that I have not been, engaged in any criminal activities. I need to get certificate from the residency where I live, the government office where I live, that I do really live there, and I need to get the certification from taxation that I am, legal and loyal citizen of Mongolia. So that kind of, a lot of time people has to go through these processes. So the idea of the ID card was that there will be unified system where the citizens' basic information will be confirmed, and he she does not have to go to every organizations to prove he is who, So instead of that, the government will utilize the modern technology and to provide the one-stop kind of shop for citizens to get the services. An e-ID card will provide the security which is there. E-ID card will have information which is related to his personal, what was his previous name or archives information, etc. We have been involved on developing feasibility of introducing e-ID card and provided the consulting services, which has been followed by the bid, and the companies were selected to print the ID cards, etc. Still at this stage, unfortunately, we have a lot of problems in terms of how to better utilize the the possibilities which e-ID card provides. Because there are many different most of the government organizations have their own system. Public transport system is one of them. It's just related to public transport. For example, the state budget system, or state fund system, things like that. So Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Health, Social Welfare, Ministry of Agriculture, or any other ministries or agencies would have their own systems. So currently the challenge which we have right now is to develop so-called enterprise architecture of government public services to citizens, through which the citizens will be able to do not have to go to police, to residency, to taxation office. It's just that if he needs to go to apply for job, the government will talk to government and get this information, from each other, and just a verification message will be sent, email, or I don't know the way or how it will be implemented in the future, will be sent to citizens. So that's a process which we are involved on. As for public transport IT, right now we have a Ulaanbaatar. We've been involved in the public transport in our Ulaanbaatar city. Ulaanbaatar has 26 companies which provide public transport services to citizens of Ulaanbaatar, which is 1.2 million. We do not have metro, we do not have tram, we do not have BRT. The public transport, it means the buses, minibuses, taxis, and these are services. And basically, when we board on the bus, we pay the cashier, conductor, the money for travel. And sometimes we get receipts, sometimes we don't. The buses will go, as they please on their schedule, things like that. So we have been involved on this ATP project because of the need of introducing automated vehicle location system. Buses, Ulaanbaatar city public transport need to know which bus comes which locations. Christina, you are based in Singapore or I forgot Malaysia?
Yes, Malaysia.
Malaysia, yeah. Kuala Lumpur has very good public transport system as far as I know. Right?
It's somewhat integrated, not fully integrated, but yes.
Yeah. But for us is even like if you go to Thailand, on BRT there is a BRT which has a you don't have to pay. You get the ticket for daily ride or weekly or monthly, and you just scan the ticket and things like that. We don't have that. So the project which we were involved on, we wanted to introduce something like that, so-called integrated circuit card system, where the passenger boarding on a bus will scan his card, and the payment for his trip will be reduced, taken out from his trip. And the bus companies would know, government organizations would know where the buses are. At the same time, there is information about the buses, so-called bus information system, will be on each bus station saying, okay, route number 10 bus will come in 10 minutes, something like that. Right now, we just expect the buses will come, but they don't come. So, another dilemma which we have over there is, at the same time as we were involved on this project, JICA has been involved on feasibility study of setting up metro in Ulaanbaatar. And the public transport project, which we finished, but there should be follow up. But because of that metro project, I think it's still not decided how it's going to be implemented, in what way.
Okay.
So that's some basic ideas.
Okay. Thanks for the update. The government of Mongolia has also been active in developing policies on the delivery of public service to citizens. Can you tell us a little bit about the process and approach that have been used for developing the policies? And
interestingly, there is a currently so-called working group on delivering public services to citizens, just in line with your questions. And it has 5 major subgroups. One is the policy group, which develops the policies and the general direction of how the public services will be delivered to citizens. Second is a standard group, is to develop prioritized standards which needs to be developed in order to deliver public services to citizens. Third, on e-government. Fourth, on human resources. And fifth one, on performance management of civil servants. So it is not only about e-government, it's conceptual paper, the paper which I hope will be introduced at the end of the day, which integrates how these government organizations will work together, what is the role of the human civil servants, what are requirements for the civil servants, what standards they should be following in order to deliver services, what standards will be used for government organizations to interact with each other, as well as how to measure those governments, performances of civil servants. In line with that is this e-government group which I am part of, and we're trying to develop the projects to be implemented as a priority projects, in the first place. A lot of services currently are provided, on paper still. But we need to know what kind of services are more frequently used and required by citizens so that they will be able to benefit for introducing e-government policies on this. The working group still in progress, has not finalized everything, but eventually that's a process which will take, I think, the results of these working groups, they will produce a conceptual paper presented to the government and hopefully approved by the government, and the bigger project will be implemented in the future.
Yeah, great. I hope so.
We look forward to that.
Yes. And also like to talk a bit about the ICT infrastructure, because I understand that major development has been made in the recent years. Could you highlight the key ICT infrastructure development in recent years?
Well, a lot of has changed, as I have mentioned, since digital review of last version of e-DIRAP.
Yeah, in 2010. Yeah.
Yeah. Still, there are all SOM centers. We have about 336 SOM centers. All settlements have now connection to the fiber optic backbone, national backbone. We have Ulaanbaatar. We have a very, very big coverage of all 4 mobile operators. We have over 2 million mobile subscribers. I don't have exact number right now, but I can find it out. We have internet, is accessible in all IMAX centers, 21 IMAX centers. We're planning to outreach it to all 330 plus SOM centers and settlements. Lot of Wi-Fi networks, private networks are used in Mongolia. Still, we have a challenge. Mongolia does not have our own satellite. We rented them. So the government has put up so-called 7 strategic purposes to be achieved by year 2016. And the very first strategic objective is to have national satellite launched. And currently the feasibility study, the studies are carried out on how to set it up and what kind of infrastructure is there. And eventually, with that, we will be able to have a more broader, more high-speed infrastructure in the country, and more outreachable to everywhere, anywhere.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Good.
Definitely. Thanks. It's really exciting to hear of the achievements and ongoing initiatives in Mongolia, and also your insights on some of the issues that the policymakers are grappling with. Um, a final question is, what is the future outlook for ICT for development in Mongolia? What are the changes and advancement that we should be expecting?
I think we should be looking forward to a digitized world in Mongolia. Right now, what I mean digitized is right now most of the TVs already use analog system. And by July 2014, we are planning to transfer everything to digital, which means the high-speed quality services and services by TV, radio, combination of the services and things like that. We are looking forward to having more delivery of public services to citizens, that the citizens will be able to receive public services anywhere, everywhere, and without limitations on that. It can be done through internet or through your mobile phones in the future. And we hope that in the future there will be more, so-called reduced digital divide in the country, so that everyone who can, will be within the range of broadcasting will be able to receive those public services or to watch TV or listen to the radio or browse internet and things like that. So that's what we look forward to.
Great, thanks. This sounds like a really exciting and challenging time for you. Ariunaa,
Indeed.
Yeah, it's been a real pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you, and we look forward to keeping in touch with you for latest ICT updates in Mongolia.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll be posting this interview recording and a written summary to the e-DIRAP community, so for them to comment and share their thoughts on the information that you've provided today. Yeah. And to the listeners, thank you for listening. You can find more information about ICT for development in Mongolia at the e-DIRAP website, digitalreview.asia. Thanks again, and goodbye for now.